Hi again, everybody. This is the Big Idea, Big Moves podcast. I'm Jamie Allison, and this is the destination for high performers. We talk to people from different genres, different niches, all doing big things in their space. So we talk to, whether it's CEOs, we've talked to athletes, we've talked to scientists, we've talked to different professionals that, again, are doing really cool things in their space, and that we can translate some of those wins, hopefully, into our own lives. And I know we're going to do some of that today. There's some really great information I'm sure we're going to take away. Just before we jump into that, if you've listened to the podcast for a little while, you know a lot of our guests talk about how important it is to intentionally set goals for themselves. And so what we've done is we've created a partnership with the Full Focus Planner, which is Michael Hyatt. If you know Michael Hyatt, you know that he did a lot of putting that together. So if you go to our Instagram profile, and I can see that our guest actually has it kind of right away, fantastic book. And I know that there's some great stuff that you can take away. Just go to our Instagram profile. If you go into the bio, you can actually get a link, go right to it, take a look around. There's lots of different versions of it and things that you can do with it. So we'll definitely say to do that. The other one is we have a lot of people that are either business owners, people that are maybe trying to go back into the workforce. And we have a partnership with Epitome HR, and they are a boutique HR consultancy firm that is really helping organizations make some sense out of what's happening in the market right now. But one of the things that makes it nice and easy is if you go to the website, they have a free HR assessment that will help you work through some of the questions, some of the things that if you're just trying to figure out what makes sense as we head into this new reality, then I would say definitely take a look at it. And all you have to do is go to www.epitomehr.com, and that's EPITOMEHR.com. See what makes sense, and we know that it can help a lot of people right now, so definitely check that out. So we'll go on to our guest, who I know already obviously does lots of goal setting, so I know we're going to go into that today. Jennifer Berson is the president and founder of Generation PR. That's a public relations and social media marketing firm. And it really specializes in a lot of promoting of lifestyle brands, which I know we're going to talk a lot about as well. Her clients range from multi-billion-dollar brands to small and medium-sized companies as well that are in growth phases. She's also the creator of the Agency Accelerator, where she helps teach other entrepreneurs how to grow and scale a profitable marketing agency. She has been featured in the New York Times, Forbes, Inc.com, Business Insider, and many more. And she's also been featured on Babbel.com as one of the 10 mompreneurs who made it big, which is kind of cool as well. So again, thank you for taking the time, Jen. I really appreciate you being able to join us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
No problem. I mean, I think we've talked a little bit about some of the things that you're doing right now, but I'd like to kind of go back a little bit, because I know that you didn't start in that kind of marketing kind of role that you're in right now, and I think that would be interesting to a lot of people just to see, how did you get here? Where did you come from, and how did you get into marketing?
Yeah, total 180 from my previous career. I was a civil litigation attorney in Los Angeles, and I practiced law at a big firm for 4 years, and kind of realized it wasn't the best fit for me or my personality. And one of the biggest things I noticed was that there weren't any women that I could look to as role models for the kind of life that I ultimately wanted to have. I mean, I was young and dating, and I knew that I wanted to, like, settle down, get married, and have kids, and have the ability to be present and checked in and be there for my children. But I didn't see any role models that had that kind of life that I could just point and say, she's got it going on. I'm going to do exactly what she did and make partner and, be able to be there for my kids when they need me. And I just started, like, planted a seed, like, is this the path for me? Will this be the career that's going to serve the kind of life that I want to have? And I really looked for it, like, who here can be a mentor to me in that. And I really just saw women that had kids and were kind of phased out, or they were partners and they never saw their children, or they were partners and never really had kids, kind of like men and, women in skirt suits, I guess. So I just thought, this just really isn't the right fit for me. And yeah, I have kind of a weird story about how I got started, but I essentially started promoting a brand on the side, unpaid. I just
Hmm.
had a really strong feeling for it. Was a fragrance company, and I just reached out to the owner of the company, knowing that she had such a great brand and product. The branding was fantastic, but she had no presence here in the US,
Yeah.
even though it was based in California. She had no, I discovered it in Europe on my bar trip, and I was like, this is great, but
Wow.
how do I get more? And I was kind of surprised to find out they were in the US because they didn't have any retailers. So I reached out to her, and I had this kind of a vision for how I could help this company.
Yeah.
And I can get into that if you want to hear like how
Yeah. Yeah.
it is lit a fire under my butt to like change my
Absolutely.
career. So I reached out and I just said, send me a big box of products. I'm a
Yeah.
stranger off the internet. I'm a lawyer, but if you send me products, I can get them out to people and kind of see what happens. And she did. I
Yeah.
said, I'll do this for no fee, but let's just see what happens. And she had one fragrance called I Am Beautiful. And at the time, Christina Aguilera had a same song with the same
Yep.
name. So I sent it to her. And then I told the magazines about it, that she had it. I didn't say she was like a fan or endorsed it. It was just kind of like, she has it.
Yeah.
And they picked it up in a weekly magazine, and it ran probably within 2 weeks of me pitching it and having it show up in print.
Yeah.
And there were two things that really kind of made an impact for me. It was the fact that I was holding something tangible in my hand in such a short turnaround. Whereas in litigation, I worked on cases sometimes for 2-3 years, and it was
Yeah.
just all about spending and, tearing down businesses and, wasting money so that the others, it was just like about, kind of spending exhausting resources and not actually building up a company and
Yeah.
in a positive way. And the second thing was that the owner of the company told me she had so many new business inquiries and so many people reaching out to buy the product. It was the biggest thing that ever happened in her business. And it was for me like having this positive impact in such a short time frame, and knowing I was helping a company that I loved and I believed in. That to me was like, okay, if I can make a career and get paid to do this, that would be my ideal career. So then I just kind of started looking around like, what even is this,
Well, and it must, so, it's great that you had that passion with it, but you're also in a very, I think this is something a lot of corporate people struggle with is, okay, I've got the stability that comes with, a corporate role that, and for you, it's a pretty prominent role. Was that scary, I guess, when you did suddenly the light went on, I do want to make a change, but, how did you tackle that part of it yourself?
Yeah, I think that the biggest part for me was feeling like I might disappoint my family,
Hmm.
feeling like I might somehow be a disappointment to them because they were so supportive of my path in law. I was 27 at the time. I had bought a house in Santa Monica, and I was
Yeah.
single, and I had a mortgage payment. So I had responsibilities.
Yeah.
And I was dating my husband at the time. And he was getting his MBA, and he said, I'm taking these marketing classes. And for me, it's just like a foreign language, but I see you and I see that it's so intuitive for you. And I
Yeah.
see how passionate you are about this side project you're working on. You really should, if you're interested, just go for it. What's the worst that can happen? You can always go back to law. So I kind of realized that I was betting on myself. I was just betting on myself. And I knew that I would put in the work. I knew I would figure it out, but I had to have some parameters that allowed me to feel comfortable to make that leap, knowing that I wasn't going to panic about money, or I wasn't going to panic about things not happening fast
Yeah.
enough for me. So I gave myself a 6-month runway, and that meant like money. I had enough saved up to really, and I planned for it.
Mhm.
But I had enough saved up to cover my mortgage and cover my expenses. So I wasn't in a panic.
Yeah.
And I had one lead on a paying client that would have been a really nice supplement to the savings I had. So it felt like it took the pressure off, but also just giving myself the space to take the time and build it the right way and be
Yeah.
strategic about who I brought in as clients, and, promoting brands I really loved and believed in, and not just ones that could pay the retainer.
Yeah.
So I gave myself a little bit of time to say, okay, do not hit the panic button before 6 months. And
Yeah.
I was really lucky. I was profitable right away. Started a business with just very low overhead, and
Yeah.
initially it was just me. And so I was able to kind of hang on to what I was bringing in and use it as a solid foundation to build on top of. But I think it was just that realization at 27 that, my life was my own and my happiness was mine to make. I wasn't just going to kind of fall into the right path, the right career path for myself. I had to be strategic about pursuing it, and nobody else is living my life. I'm not living my life for my parents. I think ultimately what is most important to a parent is that their child is happy and, feels fulfilled. But there was that piece of it that feels almost like a failure. Like when you tell people, I'm a former lawyer, it's almost like you are saying, well, I couldn't hack it. And it wasn't like that for me. It wasn't something I could see myself doing. I mean, I had a great job. I was at a really good firm. I just didn't love it. And I realized how little I enjoyed it once I was out and had a career I was so passionate about. I thought passion in your career was for other people. I didn't know that I could have that.
Yeah. Wow. And I guess that's the one thing a lot of people struggle with, because I think once you do get exposed to the job a lot of the times and you're in a job, it becomes really easy just to assume that that doesn't exist anymore, that, that this passionate thing about their job is just, what people talk about, but really, do they ever feel like that? But the reality is people do feel that, and it's finding it is a great thing.
I thought it was like for artists, or dancers, or people that are like, they turned a hobby or something they love into their career, and maybe they don't make great money, and like very few people actually like hit it big. I had only known professional jobs, and the people I knew in professional jobs had passion for, hobbies and travel and things unrelated to their jobs. So I didn't know you could have the two together. That was like a revelation for me.
Now, and when you started doing this new role, you started in more of just a traditional kind of PR, social media kind of focus, and I know that you've changed that even over the last little while. Did that evolve in a set way? Like, had you planned on, okay, now I'm going to expand what I do, or did things like, obviously a lot of people, when they went into a pandemic, things shifted in how things were done, and how did that happen for you now that you've really kind of broadened what you do?
Yeah. So I now have this whole coaching side of the business that I teach other people who want to learn how to do PR as a service, the step-by-step approach, and then teach them how, with a framework, how to launch, grow, and scale a profitable PR agency. So when I first started, I've run my agency for 16 years now. And when I first started, social media didn't exist. It just wasn't a thing at all. And we sort of saw that change when, Twitter and Facebook kind of came on the scene, and then our clients were asking for it, and it was more time consuming than just, posting a few tweets here and there to make it look like their account had a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So we expanded in that way. So like I had probably that first expansion that was, going from PR, traditional earned media, to offering social media services. And we brought in some of our biggest clients offering that service, because I think as a small agency, we're very nimble and we're able to figure out how to do things that the bigger companies just couldn't do in a short turnaround and with a, smaller budget. So we offered value there. And then I started noticing that, people were asking me how I made that transition, because it was like, you were a lawyer, what the F, you didn't have any, experience, training, contacts, like, what were you thinking? Like, are you a crazy person? But how did you do it? How are you able to do it? And I was mentoring women all over the world. It was really cool. I had no idea how they were finding me, maybe through Twitter or whatever. And I was doing it for free, and I loved it so much. And I started to get all the same questions and realized that I was giving them all very similar advice,
Yeah.
Before this, I did have a PR course for experts, brand experts, entrepreneurs, to do it themselves. And that was me noticing people were starting to make money online, sharing their expertise. And, I thought people wanted to know from me, how do you do PR for
Yeah.
yourself? But people never came to me and asked that. They really wanted to know about building a business.
Yeah.
So I put it out there, and, on Instagram, I said, does anybody want to learn how to do this? I'll take like a small cohort and we'll just kind of build out this content as we go. And it was like a premium, coaching experience. And I had about 10 people join. So I had a proof of concept before I even built it. Unlike the other thing where I spent so much money, time, effort, with the professional videos and the branding.
Yeah.
And that program was great. It just I wasn't even passionate about it. I'm really passionate about this model, this agency model, and how women can create a business that serves the kind of life they want, have work-life integration. If this is what your vision of how you want your life to look similar to how I've structured mine, then let me show you how to do it.
Yeah.
So I kind of built that agency side of the coaching, realizing it was like a light bulb went off, like, oh my God, I can't believe I haven't been paying attention. This is what people are asking me for.
Yeah.
And then once we had that program, it was like knowing how to serve our audience, what they needed. And we had this year entirely built out in terms of strategy. And when we were launching things, like everybody plans their year, or last year, I should say.
Yeah.
And when the pandemic hit, it was like this, we were doing a huge live event. We were doing a bunch of stuff that we had to put on the back burner.
Yeah.
And it was like paying attention to our audience and asking them what they needed. And we had always wanted to launch a membership to teach people how to do PR as a service.
Yeah.
And we were going to do it in like the fourth quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter of last year. And we just completely flipped our schedule, canceled the event, and then launched. It's a program called the Pitch Lab in 3 weeks. And again, launched it before we had anything to sell people. We just put up a cart to transact. And in the first month and a half, we had like 120 people sign up for this membership. And a lot of them are still in it, just renewing and hanging on. And it was a response to the community feeling like they were out of, like, their career paths were out of their hands. And it felt like it was not empowering. We wanted to empower them to train themselves, to earn money on their terms, and give them the skill that even in a pandemic, brands, they did cut back a bit, but we had new business inquiries all the time. I think they want to get ahead of their competitors and, try to capture market share. So if brands and experts are looking for the service, we can train you and give you a path to earn great revenue by offering this service. And so that's what we did. And we turned it on in like 3 weeks. And that's not my style, because I'm like more like a planner, but I was like, okay, and it's excellent. And I'm so proud of it. And I have just a really incredible team that helps put the content together every month. And I learned so much, and I know it's packed with value, and it's something I'm really proud of. And it has helped our members, kind of get their careers back on track. So
I mean, the fact I mentioned at the start that you are, you're recognized for, obviously, for the professional part that you do, but also for this whole idea of being a mompreneur and being able to structure your life in a different way. And have you found, especially recently, do you really find people identify with that? Like, do you have a lot of people still reaching out and trying to figure out, how do I create this for myself at a time when, it can be probably more stressful for people than it maybe ever has been before? Have you found an uptick on that, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been my audience. My audience is primarily women. I think there's a few men here and there, but they're lurkers. They buy the products and then they kind of lurk in the back.
Yeah.
I have noticed that women are, I mean, there's all these articles about women leaving the workforce, and, with the homeschooling and being in the home with the family, we have seen that women are wanting to contribute. So they're it's not like a cute side hustle hobby. They
Yeah.
have these great skills and they want to monetize and they want to be strategic about it. And I think I've always been very honest about my journey as an entrepreneur and when I had kids, and my son is on the spectrum, and it's
Yeah.
very challenging, especially with COVID and distance learning. And
Yeah.
we were surviving, we were not thriving. It was really a hard time.
Yeah.
And I'm always honest about that because, not a lot of people share that. And I've sought it out, does anybody have an experience like mine? And so I think because I'm so open about what is important to me, and the fact that I've been able to strategically build my business in a way that allows me to be the kind of parent that I always wanted to be or hope to be,
Yeah.
that they gravitate towards that. So I get a lot of younger women who see that that's a path that they want to be on eventually. And then I get women that are already moms that are looking for a way to support their families, to be able to be there for their kids, but also like you feel so you feel like it's a positive part of your identity. A lot of women feel like, I'm not just a mom. I mean, I will say this, first of all, being a full-time parent is the hardest job there is, I believe. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's harder to have a business and be a parent. I believe for me, it's been easier. For me, it's a respite. It's a place that I go, especially I've come to realize that we do so much for my son in terms of therapies and, so much we've invested, and we'll have like one step forward and two steps back. So it's
Yep.
hard to feel like all of this stuff that I'm advocating for him is actually making a difference. Like I know it is, but it's not like something's like this big revelation, like it's a big change. So I feel like with these programs,
Yeah.
I see the impact that it's making. I see that these women are having such great results and they're loving what they're doing. And I get so much out of that personally. So I personally love working. And I think that because I share all of that, all of the sides of my life, and people are kind of drawn to that, because it's a model for what, I have a woman that's like running a PR agency on a boat off the coast of the Azores Islands, and she's like, she'll take calls and she's got like the bulkhead is like 1 inch from her head and she's sitting on a counter, but she's like, we're doing this. My kids are home. They're on the boat. And my husband is like, she said, I'm the sole provider of the family and we're untethered and we're on a boat and this is what we want to be doing. And like, this is how I've been able to do it. I followed a model and it's working, So for me, that's like the ultimate, it just is the best.
Now, you talked a bit there about how you present yourself very authentically, and that's how you kind of connect with a lot of people. Have you found, and this could be for both sides of the business, like whether it's the kind of larger company PR stuff that you do and marketing stuff, or some of the smaller, do you have things changed in the approach to kind of how you market to people, how you present PR opportunities? Has any of that changed from kind of 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, in your experience?
Yeah, I mean, things are always evolving. I think in the earned media side, when I first started, it was like complete separation of paid advertising and editorial, and there wasn't any like crossover. And now it's like you pitch on the editorial side and they forward you to the ad department. And traditional media is kind of changing. It's not going away, but it is changing. Print publications are, going digital. We look at it like there's more opportunities online, certainly with podcasts becoming so popular. I think podcasts are the best medium to be able to share and tell your story. You have a captive audience. They listen, their attention span is longer. They're listening to like 80% of most shows. So it's a really great way also to share your personality. So we're seeing like a shift in things going digital. And really it's like knowing that you are matching a story with the publication and being intentional about it. It's not like you're just going to kind of exist and be a cool thing and people are going to flock to write about you. You have to be intentional. So I see a lot more entrepreneurs, even just starting out, pitching themselves as experts. It used to be that you had to have all these certifications or you had to be established or known to be in the media. But now there's so many publications looking for sources. I feel like, we're starting to see all these people that maybe it's your competitor and you go, well, wait a minute, I could have talked about that topic and I've been at it longer than this person. So we're showing people that you can just pitch, and the worst thing they can do is say no, but they're not going to include you unless you actually try. And people are having a lot of success with it. And I think too, like, there's interesting stories to tell. And, especially now with how people are, making it work during the pandemic, either like how their jobs have shifted, like you asked me about. People are really curious. And at the beginning too, it was all about work from home strategies, remote work, and it was like everywhere. So the topics shift for sure, but it's not only about COVID. I think people are having like COVID news fatigue, and they want things that are uplifting, that are inspirational. How-to content is really, really translating well, converting well right now, pitch wise. So those are the shifts that I've noticed. And also influencer marketing, which never existed. And now, there's so many ways to go about it, but brands that do it well, do it right, are having really great results. We used to do celebrity outreach, and it's not as much of a thing anymore. Like, influencers are the new celebrity.
It's funny how some of that has changed so much in a pretty short period of time, and I'm sure will continue to evolve as well. We mentioned at the start, I think that from a business standpoint, you do lots of goal setting. I know that you do kind of plan things out, whether it's your day or whatever it is. But what is your approach from that end? Are you a write down your kind of goals kind of person? Are you do you kind of take opportunity as it comes? How does that work for you?
I'm kind of a bit of both, because we plan things out. I have two sides of my business. I'm running the agency and I'm running the coaching side, and I have two separate teams for both sides of the business. And when I have almost like integrators on both sides, so they essentially run me. They will tell me what to do. So we will sit down, and quarterly we'll talk about goal setting for the next quarter, like what, revenue goals, or really for us, it's an impact goal. How many entrepreneurs do we think we can support with our programs, or are we aiming to connect with and have an impact in their lives? And obviously the impact translates to income, but we'll set quarterly goals and then we'll back into them. So what does that look like for us? How are we promoting these programs? If they're evergreen, do we have to run more ads, or are we going to be doing more sort of like mini live launches? So once we have those goals, then it helps me kind of push everything that is less important or not urgent to like the back burner, and we'll revisit that. And then I know exactly what I have to focus on. And then daily, there's so much that comes up on the agency side, client meetings. And then there's so much that comes up also on in my personal life with my kids. My son has a lot of appointments and therapies we go to. So I have certain things that are like set, and then I plan around them. So I'll have like back office days. I know he talks about that, back of stage or whatever, backstage days. So I record a weekly Facebook Live show on Thursdays. So I know I'll like probably take a shower and do my makeup. So what else can I do that day where I'm, maybe on Instagram or something else to capitalize on, clean hair and makeup. And the other days I'm cranking away, and it's focused attention, and I have to be really focused on what I'm doing. So I have to kind of clear everything else off the schedule. And then I do coaching a lot. So like Wednesdays are usually coaching days or master classes. So I have a pretty good routine. And then the little things that have to get done in between, I'll either write them down in my full focus planner, plug, go get it.
Thank you.
Or I will, my team will sort of manage my day on Slack, and I look and I'll see daily update, what is due today and what is due coming this week, and I'll prioritize what I'm working on.
Awesome. No, that's great. And I think anybody at home who's figuring out kind of how to jumpstart this stuff, one of the things that we do with everybody, Jen, is try to find a couple of actionable items. And you just gave them a whole bunch there, but I'm going to kind of hit you with another question that I think, especially considering your background, makes a lot of sense, is that if someone's just starting, so is thinking, okay, I want to really build up my online presence, is probably feeling a little bit big at this point, because everyone knows there's so many different platforms, so many different things that you can do. What would you say would be maybe 2 or 3 steps that somebody could take right away and to start them on that path? Would you have a couple of tips?
Yeah, I'd love to focus all the tips on PR, media outreach.
Yeah.
Because I also want to position it as something that's very doable, very approachable, and give you a plan so that you don't feel overwhelmed. So, even if you're just starting out, typically people that are starting have come from somewhere. They're not like just out of college and, they're looking to make a change and do their own thing. So you have a path, you have experience, you have all of these wins you've had in your career, assuming, you're coming from another career or working at a company and now striking out on your own. So you have this experience. So thinking about how you can share that experience, like inspirational content, like I said, or step-by-step how-to content, is really compelling. So packaging that up in a way where it's like a pitch, how can you share your expertise? How can you add value with certain publications, readers or listeners or their audience? So yes, there's a million places to go online. What I like to tell people is focus on 3. And usually the short list comes from when you are listening to content, when you are, reading something, it really resonates with you and you feel like, oh my God, I could have totally been part of, like, duh, they should know about me. Okay. That's one of the publications you should be pitching. And maybe it's a big one like Forbes or Business Insider, but you never know until you try. Start your tactic with something maybe a little smaller and see what resonates, but make a list of 3 and then start looking at the content and see who's writing the content that most aligns with what you are wanting to share or what you know how to do. And then check into them on social media, see how those writers, sometimes they're freelancers, sometimes they're contributors, go look at their social media, kind of see what they're up to, read their content, and get really checked into what they're all about, so that, and also start sharing their content with your audience and tag them. Great article by so-and-so, tip number 3 has been instrumental in the growth of my business, something like that. And then you share the link. They'll start to notice it. So it's like you're adding value before you're making a pitch. And then your name is more relevant, it stands out more. And then when you go to make a pitch, you absolutely must convey that this is a strategic targeted pitch just for that person at that publication, not like a mass pitch, like, dear blogger, hey podcaster. I'm sure you have seen that. Delete, no, thank you. But when somebody says, Jamie, I love your show. The last episode you did with Jen from Generation PR was so compelling. I love it. Whatever. It's like, person's actually checked into my content. Now you're paying attention. It's not just a pitch for everyone. Maybe the body of the pitch is kind of similar for everyone, but what can you share with their audience that will either give them a step-by-step to show them how to do something, talk about a transformation either you've had or somebody that you've supported has had, something inspiring in your journey. I used to get a lot of press for being a lawyer and turning into a PR. It was kind of like, what, what is this? How did you do it? Why did you do it? So I share a lot of, I have gotten a lot of press about that. That was the big Business Insider piece. I got Forbes teaching how to do PR. It's just stuff in my wheelhouse, and also stuff that I want people to think of me for, so if there's something that you've done that you really don't want that to be your thing that you're known for, then don't pitch it, because once it's out there, then it becomes kind of like your, signature thing. So be intentional with what you're reaching out, but send an email, make sure they know it's just for them, pitch like 1 or 2 bullet points, maybe 2 or 3, ideas of stories, or a story if you have 1 idea and then 3 bullets of what you'll cover.
Yep.
and then wrap it up like short, sweet, to the point. You don't have to get into your whole life journey. You don't have to get into your whole bio. It's just enough to pique their interest and get a response. And then you put a call to action at the end so they know what's the very next step they can take to move this forward with you. Like,
Yep.
please let me know if you'd like for me to write this up, or let me know if you'd like for me to share my 7 tips in a more structured way, whatever,
Yep.
and send off that pitch. And then the one thing you have to do also is follow up, because everybody's busy. Their inbox is very cluttered. Maybe
Yep.
you're at the bottom, they're waiting to get back to you, and you sort of jog their memory and bump it to the top. Even in our agency, we get most of our placements for clients in the follow-up phase. So don't feel like you're bothering them. Don't feel like you're annoying. You know, these are journalists. This is their job, is to find interesting stories to tell, and why not have it be yours?
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people don't realize that there's an ebb and flow to what they do throughout a week, even. So if what maybe they brushed past earlier in the week might suddenly prompt, you know, they've got a deadline that they have to hit too, that they'll get later on in a week as well. So that's fantastic. I know if anyone's been listening and missed these, make sure that you get out a pad of paper and write those down again. The other thing would obviously be if people are trying to you know, follow your stuff, maybe take advantage of a course, any of those things, what would be the best ways to do that, Jen?
Yeah, so I'm all over social at Generation PR with a J. And we have an entire hub of resources, tons of free resources, and then of course our paid programs at profitableprpros.com. And we've set up a success path, so you could see exactly what you have to do and in what order, and kind of figure out where you are on the path. So if you're it's a really good match if you're in another service agency. Like, we have VAs that go through it, and we have social media managers. Predictable recurring retainer revenue is where it's at. And this is the agency model. It's what we teach. So if you're kind of sick of this like feast or famine, looking for projects or having clients come and go, we have a whole framework for how to run a profitable agency and, you know, build on what you're passionate about.
Very cool. Definitely worth a look. We will put in the show notes, we'll put the links in there as well. So if you want to, just definitely take a look at that. If you haven't hit subscribe on the podcast, do so right now. We have great guests every week, just like Jen. So again, we'll hopefully be able to have you again back in the future, and we'll talk through this in a little more detail. But thank you very much for taking the time today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'd love to come back. However I can help, you know, your audience, hit me up, let me know, send me a DM on Instagram, let me know you heard this, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. And thanks again. And we will talk to everybody again on Big Idea, Big Moves.